great episode, but where is Travis? Is Travis okay? Hello everybody, my name is Matthew Perkins from MatthewPerkins.net, and this is an illustrated Critical Role recap. Today we're recapping episode 4 of campaign 3. Right, now given this is a recap, there's going to be spoilers, and this is your spoiler warning. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen the episode, maybe come back later. Let me know what you think afterwards. Now, if you do enjoy this video, please do me a favor and try and share it with your favorite critter community, because word of mouth is the only way that these videos get out there. And I am absolutely relying on your help to get the word out there. Thank you so much. All right, let's jump into it. In the previous episode, the party was doing a job for this orc named Lord Estros, and they were investigating some stuff that was being stolen from his warehouse. They tracked the goods, and it led them to this very creepy dwarf that they did combat with. Later that night, one of the party members is walking alone, drunk at night. It's Sir Bertrand Bell, played by Travis. He's the old man character, and he is accosted. He is accosted by that same creepy DB dwarf that they encountered earlier. Ooh, oh no. Now he's murdered in the street like a dog, and it's absolutely tragic. It's tragic. At the same time, Imogen, who is played by Laura, is having a prophetic kind of dream where she sees or predicts Lord Bertrand's demise. And that's where this episode picks up. Imogen wakes up from her dream in which she sees Sir Bertrand Bell striding into a very dangerous looking storm, and she confides in Laudna. It seems that this is a kind of recurring dream, and Laudna puts a lot of weight on the dream. It seems like that these two people have been guided by her dreams and her feelings in the past. So Laudna and Imogen go to the Spire by Fire looking for Bertrand, but they don't know his room number, and the lady at the desk will not tell them. So they just go upstairs and start yelling, "Bertrand! Bertrand!" And then they're knocking on random doors. Okay, I knock on number 2. Are you in there? I knock on number 3. Are you in there? It's chaos. Absolute debauchery. So they eventually wake up the most perceptive person in the group, Aurum, played by Liam. Aurum steps out into the hallway in his boxers and he's like, "Oh, what's going on? What's going on?" And the girls explain, "Well, Imogen had a dream about Bertrand and we just want to check that he's okay, but we don't know which room he's in." When Dorian and Fern finally come out to the hallway as well, we actually get to see Mister. We get to see little Mister, which is Fern's monkey. We haven't seen him in the previous episodes. He's been kind of alluded to, but he's actually out and about and he's being cute and stuff. He's like a fire spirit monkey, but I think he can kind of turn off the flame. Sorry, I'm getting too in detail about the monkey. I'll stop talking about the monkey. When the two girls are defending the value of Imogen's dream, Laudna confirms something for us. She says, Imogen has senses. They don't steer us wrong. So for me, that says 100% that Imogen does have some kind of prophetic or portent power, which is pretty cool. The party go to Bertrand's door and they knock on it, but nobody answers. Hey, I wonder why, guys. They try and pick the lock, but it doesn't work either. I told her, this party endures. So Aurum does just a great thing. He goes to his room, he gets his sword, and he just hacks the latch off the door. Door open, my friend. So when the party gets into Bertrand's room, they don't see any sign of him. The bed is still very much made. It probably still has those little complimentary soaps. You steal them immediately. You just put them in your bag. Take the little soaps every time. So they don't see any sign of Bertrand Bell. And that's because he didn't sleep in the room, right? And Dorian even confirms this and says, "Hey, last night I was having drinks with Bertrand Bell downstairs. And I said, 'You're very drunk, go to bed.' But he didn't do it. Instead, he went for a walk. So now the party are incensed. They immediately gather their equipment and they go to look for their missing friend." Little bit of a side note, don't be a Bertrand Bell, all right? If you're going out somewhere, try and go with somebody or text people to let them know where you are. And also check in on your friends like Laudna and Imogen, Don't just presume that people are safe out there because they're not always safe. I don't care how big and strong you are. Right? Stuff can go crazy. Stuff's crazy out there. All right? Look after your friends, text each other, check in. So now the whole party, minus Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass, who are asleep, and I guess also minus Bertrand Bell because he's dead, they roll very well on their perception check. They're looking for Bertrand out there in the street because he was walking towards the windowed wall where the two girls were staying. Because of their incredible perception check, Aurum finds a person laying on the ground, but they're not moving. Oh my goodness, it's Bertrand. Dorian the Bard, being an absolute sweetheart, tries to cast Cure Wounds on Bertrand Bell's body, but Bertrand is very dead, very deceased, so the spell has no effect. And here's a quick deal for you. I'm going to show you my cat and you're going to like the video. Here he is. Ah, gosh. Now, I've got to be honest with you here. At this point, I did stand up to go get a beer. And when I came back, it seemed like they were looting the body because Ashley had a sheet of paper that seemed to have a list of everything that Bertrand had on him, including like an old TV guide and a 30-year-old condom and all of this other stuff, right? So I'm presuming that they looted the body and they got his stuff back, including his gambler's rapier, which is, a sick weapon. When they really inspect the body and they do their CSI critical role, Aurum finds 6 puncture wounds on Bertrand's body, and he recognizes those puncture wounds as coming from a rapier because, well, at least half of them, because Aurum was stabbed with that very same rapier. Aurum is pretty well convinced that the person that did this moiter, who moited their boy, was the dwarf. This is a pretty big problem, so the party decides to go look for help. And where do you go when you need a helping hand? You go to Lord Ashtaroth, right? Your buddy's dead, okay? There's a murderer on the loose and he wants you dead. Go see your buddy, Lord Ashtaroth. So Evelyn lets them into the manor and they carry Sir Bertrand Bell's body into the study and they lay it down on the table, and then Lord Ashtaroth enters for a conversation. Now, in this whole interaction, in fact, throughout this whole episode, Aurum is very interesting, right? We learn a lot about him and his nature. He is kind of accusatory to Lord Ashtaroth. He says, this is an entanglement, a result of the job that we did for you. Like, he's trying to lay some of the blame at Lord Ashtaroth's feet. In light of the danger, Lord Ashtaroth suggests that the party stick together and that they gather Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass, who are asleep right now. Since they're a little bit closer to Lord Ashtaroth now, he actually offers for them to stay in his manor, which he previously revealed, hey, all the rooms are trapped. Don't walk around. So he goes upstairs and starts disarming traps for them so they can have a bit of a Betty bye. And he has a revealing moment when he leaves the room as far as his motivations. He looks at Sir Bertrand Bell's body and says to himself, there's too much injustice. We're not pushing back hard enough. Throughout the course of the night and the next morning, we have a cool few moments. What happens is Aurum has this beautiful team building moment where he's struck by the realization that just 2 days ago, nobody in that room knew each other, but here they are, all relying on one another. Imogen reveals that the voice she hears in her dreams sometimes, the voice that told her to run from the storm, she thinks that's her mother's voice. Cutting over to Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass, Ashton gives Annie, who is a half-orc that he knows, 100 gold pieces. I think maybe Ashton owes money to a lot of people. Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass decide to pick up some sandwiches for the team as they go to meet them at the windowed wall. But they don't pick up a sandwich for Bertrand Bell because they're like, oh no, screw him. He can buy his own for some reason. When they get there, Lordan's first words are, Bertrand's dead. No tact here, okay? Ruthless, no ruth. There's also a little bit of a rivalry here because now we've got the monkey out. We've got Fern's monkey, Mister. And then Lordna has her dead rat, Pate. And there's a weird scene. Apparently they don't like each other. This monkey doesn't like the dead rat. Maybe vice versa. I don't know. There's so many questions. But now the party's together. They've got a dead friend, a lot of questions. And they've got a crime scene to look at. Now, I'm not talking about the alleyway where Bertrand was moited. I'm talking about the hotel, the inn where they had their fight with the dwarf initially, because there were a few clues that went unexplored there. So the party goes to the Weary Way, and they go to the room where they fought the dwarf. The room seems mostly as they left it. It still has the ashen remains of those shade creepers, those things that explode when you kill them. But one of the clues they wanted to explore is that they found this cavity near the desk, right? This kind of space that went into the space between the walls of the building. So they go there, right? They go to look down here. Aurum goes, ooh, this is actually quite small. And it seems that only creatures that are small or smaller can fit down in this space. That leaves only Aurum to do this. But they team up a bit. So Aurum gets Lordna's rock hammer in case he needs to break rocks. He gets a kind of glowing coin of delving from Fresh Cut Grass that glows and has a special property that we'll get to soon. And also he takes Fern, because Fern turns into a snake so they can go down together. Now this hole is rad. It's a cool hole. It goes very deep down. They're descending down, they're climbing down into this hole. It is 2 feet wide. 2 feet wide. That is very narrow. And the rope they have is only 150 foot long. So they go down to the very end of the rope. My dude, That hole goes deeper. It is a very deep hole. It smells earthy. It smells of charcoal. They investigate the walls of the hole, of this tunnel that goes directly down, and there are claw marks on the walls, like little creatures have climbed up it multiple times. Now, these would be the shade creepers, I presume. But Aurum points out that this is probably too wide for the dwarf. Dwarves are, I don't even think they're small. I think they're a medium creature. They're shorter than humans, but they're wider, they're stockier. So halfling, sure, you can fit down, but a dwarf would struggle. He probably didn't escape down here. At this point, Aurum drops Fresh Cut Grass's magical coin of delving and just waits for it to hit. Now, the way this coin seems to operate is that when it hits the ground, you magically know how deep it was, right? But anybody else that is down there when it lands, they magically know how high you are. So it's kind of like a risk benefit. They find out that this tunnel, this hole in the ground, is 1,200 feet deep. Oh my God. And when Ashton pulls the rope and drags them back up to the surface, Fresh Cut Grass reveals that the coin had sentimental value. And he's like, "Did you drop my coin?" Lorna and Imogen reveal that they know a little bit about shade creepers. Maybe they've had a run-in with them before, like in a pre-game session, because Lorna seems to think that she knows a way to get into their hiding spot. But I don't know, they don't really explore this very much. They don't explore it very much, so maybe I misheard. If the dwarf didn't escape down this chute into the tunnel, then he must have jumped off the balcony or climbed up the balcony. So half the party go to the balcony where they think he might have jumped off, and they scale up. They go all the way up. They fly up there with our mate Robbie, with our mate Dorian, and they get onto the roof that is absolutely caked in bird cack. They investigate up there and they find footprints in the bird poop, right? And then Aurum does something crazy. I suppose he wants to see whether the dwarf jumped off the roof and went to other roofs, right? So he jumps 15 feet between two buildings, and he can just do that because fighters are incredible. The party have the idea to look at the logbook of the inn, right? Because this room would have to have been rented out by somebody. They followed a lady to this room initially. They followed Danis. Now, she wasn't renting it. She had a house somewhere. So it must have been this dwarf that was renting the room. So they want to go and find the logbook of this inn. But Ashton has the bright idea. It's like, hey, hasn't anybody heard of a bribe? Let's just go bribe them. And I don't think Ashton is a very persuasive character, but he's going to have a crack. And he goes in there and tries to bribe the lady at the front desk to tell him, hey, who was in that room? And eventually he kind of succeeds. They find out that the person that rented the room, the dwarf's name is Duggar. Duggar is the name of this dwarf. He had been renting that place out for like a month on and off. Now we got some information. At this point in the episode, the cast take their much deserved break, and I thought we could do the same. I just want to let you know, this video, this recap that I'm making, it cost me about $50 to make. And that's not even counting the beers that I drank while I was making it. So if you want to help offset some of those costs, you can do it in a couple of ways. First, you could just share the video with somebody, right? Because I make a little bit of ad revenue. If you just share this with a critic community that you think might like it, that'll go a long way to helping me. Or if you're a D&D fan and you play Dungeons & Dragons, my dude, I make a bunch of D&D stuff for Patreon. If you become one of my patrons, then you will get literally everything I've made for $5 dues. And I promise I will spend it on beers. All right, let's get back to the recap. Thank you. Now that we've got this dwarf's name, the investigation can start for real. Okay, so the party decides to take this information, the dwarf's name, to Lord Estros. Maybe he knows something about it. But on the way, Imogen and Dorian decide to go into a tavern and ask around, just try and work the crowd to find out if anybody has ever heard that name before. This is the scene that has finally convinced me to really enjoy Dorian. Because like I said, I haven't seen EXU, but I really like this character now. He walks into the pub and he just kind of like announces, that Duggar, oh, he's done me wrong again. And he just looks around for anybody that reacts. And there's one character in the corner just nursing a mug of ale that kind of looks up. So Dorian just closes in on that guy. Dorian sits down across from this stranger while Imogen casts detect thoughts on him. And they're going to try and mine this guy for information about Duggar. They learn a few things. We learn that Duggar wasn't always this creepy, pasty, scary looking dwarf dude, right? He used to be pretty normal. But at this point, Dorian rolls a 1 on his persuasion check. And the person he's talking to seems to just clam up and says, oh, maybe he's just weird now. He's just sick. Who knows? I don't know what happened to him. Just really closing off because of that bad roll. So Dorian reaches over and touches his hand and casts Charm Person. We learned that 6 months ago, Duggar started to change. He used to be a carpenter years ago, but yeah, he's different now. Now, he's not running with the Ivory Syndicate, he's running with somebody, but not the Ivory Syndicate. He might be running with somebody called the Horbok Cow. What's it called? The Horbok Corsairs. The Horbok Corsairs. Now, they are a group of thugs and thieves, but more in like a Robin Hood kind of vein. But they've also got this big question hanging over them about, hey, why would Duggar want Broomstone? Why would Duggar want Broomstone, this resource that is used to build airships? So they asked this character about it, and hey, I've got one word for you, Broomstone. And this guy's like, I don't know what that means. And it's a beautiful moment here because the person that Dorian has charmed absolutely thinks that they're about to hook up, and he's like absolutely fallen for him because he's been charmed. And Dorian just has to like play it off. Like, oh, I'll go get you another drink. I'll see you later. And then just ghosts him. So rude. So the party go back to Lord Estros again, and they inquire about some funeral rites for Bertrand. And what they decide to do is they go, oh, we could send his body to maybe Zephyra or to Whitestone, because on Bertrand's body he has the Vox Machina pin, which he got from working with Vox Machina. So Aurum suggests using Lord Estros's airship to send Sir Bertrand Bell's body to Whitestone to be entombed there. They ask Lord Estros about this new organization they've just learned of, these corsairs. Lord Estros is aware of them. He knows what they are. In fact, he's interested in making contact with them because they seem like the kind of Robin Hood type of organization that are trying to make the world more just. And as a character, Lord Estros doesn't seem to care about necessarily like law and order as much as he cares about justice. Lorna suggests that maybe, hey, Lord Estros is like a very officious kind of person. He has all these professional contacts, but we're trying to contact someone that's shady, right? So since they're a fringe society, the Corsairs, maybe we should start our search on the fringes of society. Lord Estros has a couple of suggestions for where the party could go to find some shady folk like this. He suggests maybe either Elder's Post, which is a collection of tunnels in the Lantern Spire, or maybe even the Fallen Sea Hollow, which of course Ashton is very, very familiar with, given that the place that he stays is there, the Crook House. The team says goodbye to Bertrand in a kind of emotional way, Fresh Cut Grass says, they say goodbye is the hardest word to say, but it's not. It's Worcestershire. It's Worcestershire. Lorna, being very creepy, cuts off a piece of Lord Bertrand's hair, and I'm like, no, don't do that at a funeral. Don't do that at any point. Even barbers shouldn't keep hair. And Ashton says, in a couple of days, you'll be gone longer than I knew you. Thanks for the job. As the party leaves Lord Estros, Aurum lingers behind and asks him about the anger. He says, I am looking for a man. I'm looking for someone named Ashard Brescio, also known as the Anger. And Lord Estros knows of this person. It turns out the Anger is a bodyguard. He's a bodyguard of a family called House Luminous. Now, House Luminous were attacked recently. We don't know who by or when or where, but we do know that the Anger was injured in the scuffle and he's still recovering from his wounds. Apparently, the reason Aurum is looking for this person is because the attack that happened on House Luminous might be similar to an attack that happened somewhere on Exandria. Now the investigation is trying to find a way to contact these elusive and mythical Corsairs, right? They're a new organization. They're hard to contact. They're underground, right? So Ashton takes the party to the Crook House to start their investigation. At the Crook House, the party's introduced to Milo. And I just want to point out at this point, Travis hasn't been at the table the whole game. He hasn't been there at all. Is he still in the room? What is he doing? Is he just waiting around? Like, do they have comfy chairs off camera for him? I don't know. Okay, sorry. I can't dwell on this. It'll eat me up inside. It'll destroy me. So Milo suggests if the party want to try and get to the Corsairs, they could contact someone named Advic. Now, Ashton seems to know this Advic character, doesn't seem impressed by them, but Ashton doesn't seem impressed by everybody, anybody, right? Ashton seems skeevy about everybody. Advic is apparently a wandering merchant in the Elder's Post. Now, he doesn't have a set location, this Advic character. Instead, he kind of like moves around. So they're going to go there and try and find him. But instead of finding Advic, they find someone named Ifrid, named the Shadow Baker. Now, this is maybe like a pun on the Shadow Broker from Mass Effect, which is a peddler of information. This is the Shadow Baker, who does the same thing, but is legally distinct and also like sells cakes. This social interaction goes very bad, very bad. Fern tries to steal something. Ashton rolls a really bad persuasion check. There's some like mind-ready stuff that kind of happens a little bit, and they offend him. At one point, Aurum says like, hey, cakes suck, pies rule, and they get into like an argument. But anyway, with all of that kind of like adding together, they manage to get some information out of the Shadow Baker, and he tells them to approach someone named Heron in the Root Trader outpost and tell that person, you come for the laughter, right? Tell them that you come for the laughter. The party take these baked goods and they go to the Root Trader outpost, and inside there is a bird person and a brass dragonborn. Now the bird person is who they're here to contact, someone named Heron. And they go up to Heron and they say, we come for the laughter. Heron seems pretty excited about this. You know, Heron knows what's up. They said the secret phrase, you get a secret thing. So Heron leads them through like various hatches into the back room, right? And we're going deeper. I was excited. We're in the inn club, right? Wrong. Wrong, okay? When they get in here, it smells like sweat, like ale, like mildew. It's damp, it's dark, and they get into a kind of space. They start to sense that they're not alone in this room as they're following Heron deeper. Heron? As they're following Heron deeper into this complex. There are many people in the room. They're hiding at the edges in the darkness. There's 30 people smiling in the room, kind of laughing, okay, leaving the center open. One person strides forward from the group, the crowd that's smiling, and they're twirling a scimitar. He says, this, friends, is certainly not your luckiest of days. That's right, they did such a bad job with the Shadow Baker that he sent them to a trap. I think if they had done better, they might have gone somewhere better. That's the recap, but don't go anywhere because I got some questions for you. 4 questions in particular. I want to hear your opinion about this episode. First question, where is Travis? Where is Travis and who will he play? Probably most people are guessing he's going to play the Anger, right? That's who the party are making us get really excited about. I want to see the Anger. They're talking him up all the time. Great. But what if it was a wild card? And instead Travis played Duggar? What if he played the character that killed him when they finally meet him again? That would be cool. But I also want to know, like, what class will he play? I'd love to see him play, like, a rogue or a wizard, something more tactical than tanky. But in episode 1, Aurum kind of indicated that the Anger is a very good swordsman. So we might see a kind of martial character if Travis does end up playing the Anger. But hey, what do you think? What class do you want to see Travis play? Third question for you. This one's a little bit of a tangent. But this episode touched kind of on Fresh Cut Grass's backstory, because when he had that emotional reaction to losing his sentimental coin down that hole, he was saying, oh, that was given to me by Dancer, you know, my creator from my old party that got slaughtered in that silver mine. I got to thinking about that. I'm like, hey, what actually happened there? You know? And so Fresh Cut Grass was the only character that survived that ordeal, and then Ashton found him. That's pretty sus, my dude. Like, what if Ashton was somehow involved with the murder of Fresh Cut Grass's party? Because Ashton is a pretty unscrupulous mercenary, it seems. And between Ashton and Fresh Cut Grass, they seem to be building this relationship of implicit trust. And I think that something like that, something shady that happened between them in the past, that would be a really good way to challenge that. Is that crazy? Is that a silly scene? Am I doing a dumb thing? Am I thinking stupid things? I don't know. If you think that might be a possibility, let me know. And my last question, simple question. What have the party walked into here? This seems like Fight Club. It seems like they walked into Fight Club. Like, hey, no shirts, no shoes. The first rule about Fight Club is we come here for the laughter. Now, all these people, they're just sitting here in the dark. What was happening in this room before the party entered? Because Matt made a point to describe, and the lights turn on when you enter. What were they doing? There was 30 people just sitting here in the dark. I don't know, man. This is shonky and shady. I don't know. And they're doing all this like laughter motif. Maybe this is tied to the laughing hand from campaign 2 somehow. Some kind of, oh man, I'm getting too deep. What do you reckon? What's happening here? What are they going to do? Everybody, thank you so much for watching. And thank you very much to my artist, Perf Draws on Instagram. All these people down here, these are my patrons. These are the people that bought me this beer, okay? If you want to buy me the next beer, check me out on Patreon. It's really helpful. I like you for it. But anyway, stick around for the next one because we're doing these videos every week about every Critical Role episode, and I like it and I like you. Goodbye. Thank you.